So I know Desperate Housewives was around like a hot minute ago, but it had a good life lesson at season 5, episode 16. And it has like a little life lesson at the beginning that it starts, and then it finishes the life lesson at the end of the episode. And Mary Alice is like voicing over, narrating, and then she narrates at the end, kind of like on Grey's Anatomy. And she had a really good saying where she said, "Be careful of judging people with good manners as good. Good manners does not equal goodness or righteousness." And then it also said, and it shows exactly the points in the show, be careful judging people that you think are rude as bad people. They might be rude with the best intentions of why they did it. So, as a redhead who gets judged harshly if I'm not 100% always on point with my personality, and I'm constantly critiqued if I, fart the wrong way or anything, it has been like that my whole life. I do not have a problem with politeness. I have a problem with people crossing boundaries and expecting me to remain polite about it. Do not poke bears in the butthole and expect me to be polite about that. Don't poke bears in the butthole, Brenda, and we won't have an issue about whether I'm going to be polite about talking about things that are going on. And there's only one group of people that I've ever had a problem with doing it, because I have lived with every single body. I have lived with Muslim women. I have lived with Mexicans. I have lived with black people. I have lived with Polish people. I lived in the UK twice. I dated a Hungarian man. I fell in love with a London man. I wouldn't call it dating, but the best man I have ever met in my life, or the best men I've ever met in my life, was a man in the British Special Forces. I cry about it still. It was like literally meeting Jesus. It was like he is from a different planet on the level of honor and righteousness he had. He knew more about me in 2 days than my ex knew about me in 6 years, or that anybody has known about me in 6 years, probably. He knew about me and hanging out for 12 hours each day. So for 24 hours, I've known this man. And he knew more about me and understood more about me in 24 hours, and he studied my views, I studied his views, and it was literally like my Rose and Jack moment from Titanic. It was like that, It was God sent to me, because it just showed me that it's not my vibration. It is not something I need to change. No, I have plenty of nice people. I have a black man that is a platonic soulmate. I have a gay man that is a platonic soulmate. I have a British Special Forces man that is a soulmate. I have women that are soulmates. This is all platonic, obviously. But I don't consider intimacy to be how I judge soulmates. I consider the equally yoked of whether they are on a similar path of righteousness and what they value and what they are trying to do for society as a person, and what kind of spiritual beliefs they stand by, regardless of like faith. Because people can really, surprise you about knowing more about your faith without even practicing it. They can have the values of your faith without claiming who you claim as your faith, and that is their right to do. It is not my right to change their mind. I am allowed to say what I believe, and then I'm also a say, you believe what you believe, except for I don't believe people are allowed to be a Satanist, but that's a whole different story. Um, and so I just wanted to get on here and say that just the thing about Desperate Housewives, episode 5, or no, season 5, episode 16, of be careful thinking people with good manners are inherently good. And be careful thinking that just because you saw rudeness in somebody, or somebody's personality isn't rubbing you the right way, they might have intentions for doing that. There might be a reason. And it could be something they have control of. It might not be something that they are all just like, sometimes when I walk past people in the store, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just going to flip out if like you bump me with your cart or something." This is what narcissists do. This is what narcissists do. This is what narcissists do. Narcissists make small problems big ones, and they make big problems small ones. They think that the truth teller is just making everything a problem. Everything's a problem. They need to not sweat the small stuff. Everything's a problem. These are big, giant problems, Brenda. We're talking about world issues that affect all countries. Those are world problems. Those are big, big problems. I don't get upset about little problems. And I can give you an example. A couple years ago, a young man who just got his license, first day of driving, hit my parked car. And he came in. I only worked with men, maybe one woman at the time. And he hit my parked car, and I came out. They all stood around me watching me like wolves, like just waiting for me to have some redhead flip out, like, oh my God, which is gonna flip out. Oh my God, she's gonna be a Karen. And it made me feel like he did it intentionally. It made me feel like he did it intentionally and that I was being, judged on whether I'm gonna be a Karen so that they could try to push me out of my job, is what it made me feel like. Because no, I'm not a Karen. I do not flip out about things that are not things you flip out about. Bumping into my car and not causing any harm is like, who cares? It is a car. Like, I do not care. Like, of course, I need my car. I need my car to function. But, like, he was a young man. He did something that didn't harm anybody. It was an accident, or at least, possibly was an accident. The way that they treated me after didn't really seem like it was an accident. The way that they tried to see if I would have some kind of flip out seemed like I was being baited, like I was being narcissistically abused. Narcissists, again, work in a hierarchy of a group, and they bait you so that they can try to harm you and call it your fault. So I don't flip out at the littlest of things. I'm not easily triggered. We are talking about giant world issues, and giant world issues need solved, not bunkers and all the things that the toxic people in my country are doing right now. It's not going to make it better. And I can 100% guarantee that the people that are doing that, I would watch the show The 100. The mountain men think that they're swifter than Swift. They're the biggest narcissist and evil people in the show. They create the Reapers to go get everybody else because they're so just like afraid of everybody else. So they create a group of Reapers, and it ends up being the downfall of them and everybody, partially, mostly themselves. So I would watch The 100 and I would think about, who do you think that's a metaphor for in the world? And then I would think about, in grade school from 6th to 8th grade in the late 90s, my literature teacher, Mr. Boyer, told me that when British people, because he said they're way more highly intelligent than we are, at least they were, back in the day. I mean, like maybe not in present day, so you know what I mean. But way more, a bigger standard of intelligence. And he said when they write books making fun of people like in Charles Dickens, the wickedness that he's making fun of is actually in America and the people that they, you know, got rid of to come over here is who they're actually calling evil and ignorant. So think about that when you think about the book called Cracks that actually is now a film with Eva Green. When you think about the book, Roald Dahl's book, Matilda, think about that, who they're making fun of. Think about Harry Potter, the Dursleys and the Malfoys, who they're calling evil, and think about that. It all comes down to the privileged, lazy learners in America every single time. And there's two groups, as Harry Potter shows. There is the group that is just comfortable enough to allow the other group to do whatever they want, and both of them feel entitled to be as evil as they want. And I have lived with every race. I have lived with Indian people, Native American people. I've lived with Muslim women. I've lived with black people, Chinese people, Mexican people. I've lived with all the people and experienced all the people, gay people, strippers. I've lived with all the people. And the people that they all have in common that they got abuse from, they all have in common, they all have a problem with the good old boys and the good old gals of this tribe. So I'd really check yourself before you wreck yourself. Watch The 100, watch that show, watch the mountain men, and realize y'all are the mountain men and you're creating the reapers. And you need to stop and realize Jesus Christ said love. We're all humanity. We need to love each other. We need to listen to each other. We need to work on solving world problems and stop making world problems into small things. They are big things and they need to be talked about more than cooking shows.